Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Kim Miller begins now.
Good evening everyone. First tonight, paramedics at the Mersey Community Hospital have joined a long line of public health workers taking strike action. Ambulance ramping and staff shortages, their primary concerns as they try to jumpstart stalled negotiations with the government.
Under pressure and understaffed.
What do we want? More resources! When do we want them? Now!
Paramedics striking this evening at the Mersey Community Hospital, putting workers' safety, ambulance ramping and wait times in the spotlight.
Paramedics are feeling pretty angry at the moment. They're tired, they're fatigued, they are really just run down. It's been a big couple of years.
Tasmania has the worst ambulance response times in the country, blowing out to 15 minutes, nearly double the recommended time for urgent calls.
Crisis is a single word to describe it. It's a matter of life and death. It's that simple.
Staff shortages are also spiralling.
On Tuesday in the northwest region, we've seen 10 vacant shifts on one shift on one day, which means almost 30% of the required resource was not available.
Although the government says an agreement is on the horizon.
We'd ask all those unions involved to take into account the good faith negotiations to get to a mutually agreeable outcome.
But our health workers say it's been a rocky road towards negotiations.
It's been difficult and it's very much not agreeing to anything that we'd want, so I think there's a lot further to go with the negotiations and it's going to take time.
They're really angry and what they want to see is some real and tangible action from the government.
It's just one crack in the system, with specialist healthcare wait times also ballooning.
Right now here at the Mersey Community Hospital, there's an over 2-month wait to see a respiratory physician if you've got an urgent case. I mean, that's simply unacceptable. And to see a gastroenterologist, it's over 3 months.
More than 55,000 Tasmanians are currently waiting to see a specialist, contributing to the already compounding pressures on our health system. McKenna Bailey, 7 Tasmania News.
Meanwhile, Tasmania's Premier also made the trip to Canberra, using his time at the National Jobs Summit to highlight a chance to boost the state's clean energy workforce. Jeremy Rockcliffe referenced his party's passion and commitment to climate change and making sure there's a clear pathway for the transition to occur.
I'm very proud of the fact that Tasmania introduced a nation-leading framework on climate change and a target of net zero emissions or lower from 2030.
Mr Rockcliffe also noted the importance of collaboration with the federal government going forward. Locally, the Greens have slammed the decision to slash COVID isolation periods from 7 to 5 days, saying it makes no sense. National Cabinet made the decision yesterday, with the move coming to effect next Friday. Greens MP Rosalie Woodruff says the Premier has folded to business interests, warning many people will still be infectious after the shortened quarantine period.
This is not about the public health interest, this is about business interests and it is about putting finances ahead of people's safety.
Meanwhile, Tasmania recorded 216 new cases today. Tasmania's equality advocates have expressed deep concern about the ramping up of an online campaign which attacks plans to ban conversion therapy practices. The legislation is yet to be tabled in Parliament, but those who have endured the methods say the damage is incomprehensible. And
lifelong trauma from years of suppressing her identity, Bronwyn Larkins still struggles to find peace.
All I remember is feeling so defeated. And I felt like if I could die, that would be a really good thing.
She wants a better future for young LGBTQIA+ Tasmanians.
I remember coming out of the hypnotherapy feeling really, really nauseous and almost feeling like I didn't want to be inside my own skin.
The fight for equality also personal for Rodney Croom, who spearheaded a campaign to decriminalise homosexuality in 1997.
They're still being told that they are broken, that they are flawed, that they can be fixed and that they should be fixed. That is completely inappropriate in the 21st century.
A Tasmanian Law Reform Institute report found the practices are still happening in the state, but those sentiments don't stack up for the Australian Christian lobby.
In our assessment, the report is based on a false premise and is based on flimsy evidence. That's why we oppose it.
The organisations continued to release ads opposing the plan, suggesting you would be banned from helping someone struggling with sexuality or gender confusion.
It is likely to criminalise conversations between parents and children in relation to issues of sex and sexual conduct.
The Australian Christian lobby says that adults, at least, should be able to consent to conversion practices. But our response is no. It's impossible to consent to a treatment for something which isn't in the first place a mental health condition.
The Premier has expressed his public support for the ban, which would see the state follow in the footsteps of Queensland, Victoria and the ACT, who have passed similar legislation.
The Premier, and with my support, has said quite clearly that there will be a move to implement a response to the recommendations.
As the bleak reality is laid bare.
Those of us that have gone through conversion practice are 3 and 4 more times likely to have post-traumatic stress disorder.
Grace Evans, 7 Tasmania News.
And if you or anyone you know needs support, there are services available, including Lifeline on 13 11 14. The air is leaking out of Tasmania's ballooning house prices, with new data showing a downturn is well underway. While values have dropped over the past 3 months, real estate agents say the local market remains resilient after 2 years of record growth.
The housing market's bear is finally out of isolation.
We've seen all capital city markets now record falls.
Across Tasmania, that fall has been 1.7% in August, continuing a downward trend over the past 3 months. But dizzying growth since 2020 means prices remain high.
That was not normal. Now we're coming back to a bit more normality.
CoreLogic data reveals Hobart prices shot up nearly 38% from the depths of COVID to their peak. Across the rest of Tasmania, that growth was even higher, at 51%. Launceston real estate agent Richard Sims says properties are no longer being snapped up at breakneck speed.
Not being 3 or 4 days, it's probably been more 20 days, our time in the market.
In the north, the more affordable end of the spectrum remains buoyant.
Resilience in that 400 to 600 market.
For prices above that, the slowdown is more apparent.
Absolutely, this is the start of a correction in the marketplace.
One tip to continue until the end of this year and possibly into 2023, after a golden age for homeowners. Tom Johnson, 7 Tasmania News.
2 new fit-for-purpose units have been built in Perth to house people aged over 55 on the priority housing waiting list. Addressing the state's social housing crisis, the 2-bedroom dwellings feature wider door frames and greater accessibility targeted at an older cohort.
We're seeing a need for people needing to downsize. They can no longer afford to run their properties as they are. So there's lots of need that's potentially unseen within the community.
The properties will be tenanted by the end of September, 3 months ahead of schedule, while the state government plans to deliver 1,500 homes by June 30 next year to provide social and affordable housing for those in need. Tasmania is in for a population boom, with more than 60,000 extra residents predicted to live in Hobart over the next 30 years. Local and state government working together to improve the city's sustainable living environment.
Banding together to future-proof Tasmania's capital, the state government and a local council committee have unveiled a detailed plan to tackle Tasmania's incoming boom.
We want Hobart to be a compact, livable city where people feel well connected.
Over the next 30 years, the city is expected to grow by 60,000 people, bringing Greater Hobart's population to more than 210,000. The demand will require 30,000 new dwellings. Prices expected to be around the $790,000 mark, with rentals averaging $530 per week.
The apartments will likely be smaller and will be provided on infill and in other locations close to services.
The team has already conducted an audit of Hobart's real estate.
One of the barriers to more homes is ensuring that we've got a ready supply of residential land.
Identifying adaptive strategies to reuse land.
Conversion of industrial land and potentially land into residential to encourage more inner city living,
and higher density opportunities as well. For example, where there's a house on a very large block to allow another home to be built.
Committee members also outlining transport as an area of concern.
We need to be smarter about the way we do transport infrastructure and look at different modes for the future. You know, we've already seen our government move towards electric buses.
An implementation plan is now in the works but won't see the light of day until sometime next year. Brianna Boylan, 7 Tasmania News.
One of Tasmania's busiest roads is about to become safer as the East Derwent Highway's duplication enters the final phase of construction. The $15 million project will see 2 lanes become 4, easing traffic congestion and creating a safer route for drivers turning into Lindisfarne North Primary School.
You see down the centre median, wire rope, splitting the 2 lanes of traffic to avoid nasty collisions like you see on the Midlands.
We're looking around the state for bottlenecks and removing them wherever we're able to, particularly with these obvious sections where you've got highways with 4 lanes, but they've actually got these sections in the middle of only 2 lanes.
The project is ahead of schedule, wrapping up in October. The 3-day celebration of Tasmania's iconic ocean and the creatures that inhabit it has officially been launched. The Spring Bay Squid Festival will bring together experts, chefs and music when it takes place in November. A floating audio-visual installation will be among the highlights, with tickets on sale next month. As a decision on whether Tasmania's bid for an AFL team reaches the closing stages, another sport is looking to grab its share of funding. Basketball is experiencing a surge in popularity off the back of the rise of the Jack Jumpers, but is running out of space to meet demand.
It's a slam dunk for supporters of a fast-growing sport. Beginning as a winter competition, the Launceston Basketball Association now plays all year round.
A 40% increase, but that's probably equates from about a 1,900 member base up to 3,000 members in the last 12 months.
Former Premier David Bartlett's vision for an indoor centre in Hobart is also taking off.
They are constantly used from 4 p.m. or after school through to 10 p.m. every night.
The Jack Jumpers' arrival described as lighting a bonfire built by volunteers, with participation up by more than 7%. But the infrastructure is falling foul due to the weight of numbers.
We would need 26 more courts than we currently have. Looking at around 7,000 players if we had that access.
We haven't had any significant investment in infrastructure in Launceston for probably close to 35 years.
Our state's AFL bid is estimated to cost more than $1 billion. Hoops fanatics believe their needs will cost just a fraction of that.
For about $5 million and some well-positioned big sheds like this one around the state, we could solve a lot of the court problems.
We need greater capacity in the sport overall, and facilities is a big part of that.
In a statement, Sport Minister Nick Street says the government has committed around $50 million in recent years to new courts and programs designed to support the growth of the game, also adding they'll continue to support the sport. Some warning those years of effort and the success of the Jack Jumpers could be undermined.
The whole time we've been underinvested in when it comes to courts.
For others, they just want to give people the chance to play.
Court sports are the last consideration at the moment, so it is very hard to watch.
John Hunt, 7 Tasmania News.
To local footy, Kieran Lovell is back for Kingborough for the TSL qualifying final, but question marks still hang over Jack Tompkinson. The Tigers will need to play every trick in the book to beat the Blues, a side they haven't come close to this year. Having lost their 2 outings at Windsor Park by 82 and 78 points this year, Kingborough knows where the problems lie.
We've turned the ball over a lot in the 2 games up there, and Launceston are the best team in the competition that scores off turnover.
They're hoping finals football will be different, but Jack Tompkinson is still only a sniff to play.
The last thing that we want to do is take someone in who's not 100%.
Launceston lost its qualifying final last year after finishing top of the ladder. They're preparing this time with a far tougher training regime to avoid the same mistake.
12 months ago we probably didn't quite go as hard as we needed to, and we probably weren't as sharp as we could have been in that first final.
There's no second chance for Clarence and Lauderdale in the knockout final at neutral ground Twin Ovals.
Funnily enough, they've beaten us twice at home and we beat them at home, but once we crossed the white line to play footy against them, there's certainly a rivalry there and a pretty hard, tough games of footy.
The Roos are bouncing off the back of news Clarence coach Peter Ryan has re-signed with the club along with the entire leadership group.
And be able to, stand here and say, look, the path that we're on is the right one, and there's evidence there, for us to finish, third on the ladder is exceptional.
Old rivals will also go at it in the NTFA Division 1 Grand Final. Old Scotch is the only side to have beaten St Pat's during the season.
It's the first time we've played in a grand final since 2016, so yeah, absolutely buzzing at the moment.
There's been many games that we've played against each other that come down to a couple of points, so let's hopefully on the weekend it's another close game for the spectators.
In the women's, South Launceston is hot favourite against Meander Valley, but the Sunettes have all of Westbury behind them in the club's first grand final.
It's taken a long time to build to this, to get us to this spot, but we've recruited some good players and we've now got a really solid group.
I come from a netball and athletics background, and footy's definitely motivating, and the girls are so supportive of each other.
The Bulldogs go into Saturday's decider at UTES Stadium undefeated. The Jack Jumpers are preparing to hit the road and visit the north and northwest of the state for a pre-season camp. The week-long session also includes matches against the Phoenix as preparations for the Blitz ramp up. Coach Scott Roth says while pre-season is going well, there's still areas to work on.
Our defense is not where I like it to be right now. It just needs to be a little bit more disciplined and consistent, but that's also with some new guys being in. And
Sam McDaniel and Jared Bairstow will join the team late. The duo will play for the Chargers in the NBL 1 Grand Final on Saturday.
It's great for me personally to be able to get out with the Chargers and have a good run, get the ball in hand a little bit more, play with a bit of freedom.
And the camp begins tomorrow. Tasmania's most talented junior soccer players have been selected to compete in the National Youth Championships, the competition making a long-awaited return after a 2-year absence due to COVID-19. National team selectors among those attending, with hopes to pick out the next young Matilda or Socceroo.
I'm ready to give it my all and hopefully to get identified by an interstate club coach.
Really excited to be able to go and play versus some really tough opposition and also to be able to play with a new bunch of people and just represent the state.
The championships will take place in Coffs Harbour at the end of this month. Rising star Tim David is the new face in the 15-man Australian squad for next month's home T20 World Cup. The power hitter from the Hobart Hurricanes is the only change to the squad, which won the title in the UAE, replacing Mitch Swepson.
His power, first and foremost, is really impressive. He's someone who just continues to get better and has had a lot of exposure to different conditions.
David's selection is another sign of a changing landscape in T20. The 26-year-old doesn't have a Cricket Australia contract, but is allowed to play as a freelancer on match payments. And Kyron Bacon is still sizzling in the 6 days of Enduro in France, up to 16th overall, while the Tasmanian has pushed Australia into 3rd out of 16 countries in the teams category. Bacon is being supported by fellow Yamaha rider Blake Hollis in green and gold. Altogether, the Aussies need to make up around 5 minutes of time to catch front-runner Italy. And Kim, one more from me. The 2 Tasmanians selected for the World Track Cycling in France, is George Baker and Josh Duffy. So all the Tasmanians doing well over in France.
What a good way to end sport. Thank you very much, Tom.
Good evening. Hobart reached 16 today, 3 more than expected. Launceston, Burnie and Devonport all 14 degrees. Friendly Beach is the top, 18 there. Smithton, St Helens, Bushy Park and Flinders Island all 15. Lowhead 14, King Island and Grove 13. Strawn a high of 12. Best rainfall today was 10 millimetres at Lake Margaret as the frontal cloud found its way over the state. A cold pool of air there behind the word today. Middle and high level cloud is over central Australia. More cloud over eastern Australia and the southern coastline. Tomorrow a broad area of high pressure lies over the Bight as a trough sits over the eastern states. Another off WA. Winds west to southwesterly 15 to 25 knots, an increase to 30 knots over the south late morning with swells at 5 metres in southern waters. Strong wind warning, that's from Tasman Island around the southern areas to Low Rocky Point. And a frost warning for the Midlands and Upper Derwent Valley, temperatures down to -2 or so overnight. Hobart tomorrow a top of 14 with a late shower moving in. Late showers as well for Huonville with 14 degrees. Cloudy for Campania, 1 overnight, 13 the high tomorrow. 15 for Launceston and partly cloudy. Devonport 14 degrees and 14 for Georgetown, all fine but cloudy. Partly cloudy for Burnie, 12 the top, 13 the high for Strawn, with showers developing. Cloudy for Wynyard and 13 degrees, while for St Helens tomorrow, partly cloudy. 14 there, 14 at Swansea and 14 at Port Arthur with a late shower. To the weekend now, and Saturday a shower over King Island and the west, otherwise fine and partly cloudy. A cool day on Sunday, morning frost and a shower likely over the south and west. And on Monday a light shower more probable over the east and south. Mostly sunny over Perth tomorrow, a cloudy 14 for Adelaide, a few showers for Melbourne, showers in Canberra and Sydney, and rain developing over Brisbane. Cloudy over Hobart, 8 right now, 11 degrees in Launceston, mostly cloudy in Devonport and 11 degrees. Yes, very weird weather with the changing of the seasons, Kim, but I'm really excited that spring is here. So excited that today I'll wet my plants.
Good night, Murph. That is all your news for this Thursday, the first day of September. Thanks for your company this evening. Good night.